One. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the Open Source Leaders Dialogue. My name is Aibami Adidini, and I'm the Content Marketing Manager at EnAccess Foundation. The Open Source Leaders Dialogue is a platform where experts, entrepreneurs, and open source enthusiasts come to share the challenges, or more importantly, the opportunities in the open source and energy access industry. And today we have a special guest who is going to be speaking on some of what is seen in the industry and what he views as what's going to be the future trends for the industry. Hi, Benjamin.
Hi.
So I'm going to give you the opportunity to tell us about yourself and what you do.
Sure. So my name is Benjamin David, and I'm the co-founder and CTO at Masunga, formerly called Solaris Offgrid. And what I do in practice at the company is I work on the development of the software solutions that we offer, mainly PAYGO, which is an operation management software for pay-as-you-go company, but also for microfinance agri companies. And it's been for a long time one of the leading software for companies that were doing PAYGO energy access. We also had a part of Masunga, of Solaris Offgrid, that was dedicated to developing hardware solutions. We were helping manufacturer of solar kits and other pay-as-you-go devices, in particular in the energy sector, make the product ready for that market. And that's how sort of we started getting into open source as part of that side of the business.
Okay, interesting. So because I was going to ask you, how did you get into open source? I mean, right? How did you get into it?
Sure. Basically, we got into it a little bit out of spite because we were facing challenges as a software provider and when helping manufacturer, which was that basically back in the time when we started doing open source, all of the products on the market were using proprietary technology for pay-as-you-go locking. So like each manufacturer of solar kit had their own proprietary technology and the software provider as well. And so basically to make it work, the option was for each new device that was coming to the market, we needed as a software provider to integrate with their proprietary technology, meaning trying to adapt whatever documentation they have that was often lightweight and complicated into a piece of code for our own software to make it compatible with their device. And it was very often very similar things, but slightly different, always proprietary. And so we were spending and wasting a huge amount of resources trying to make our software work with different manufacturers' device. And the other way around, like we're seeing the manufacturers spending a lot of time and resources reinventing the wheel over and over again, just because the PAYGO aspect was proprietary on all sides. And even though it's not that complex of technology, everybody had like their own way of doing it that they didn't want to share. And so like we were seeing a lot of resource wasted. At some point we're like, okay, this is not something that we want to keep doing. I don't think we're adding value that much to the industry as a whole by doing this, and we really need this to change. Even if it means opening more competition for us as a software, something needs to change. And so what we decided to do is to basically develop a completely open source pay-as-you-go mechanism and offering both sides of it. So not only the manufacturer side, but also the software provider side. So literally opening the way for our competitors to also adopt it, which I think was something that was really necessary. It was like we really wanted it to be open source so that we wouldn't play that game of, okay, we have our thing and you have to adopt it. It's like we put it out there, our competitors can adopt it, we can adopt it, any manufacturer can adopt it, and so we get out of that nightmare of everybody having their own piece of software. And if they're missing something, it's open source. They can go and they can add the features that they want. And yeah, basically it started like that initially just with this PAYGO locking mechanism, and it's expanded then moving forward with different other parts of it. So we had a similar issue then with the do a device connect to software like remote device and exchange like metrics information, like usage data and things like that, where that happened like 3-4 years later. We saw the exact same problem with each device manufacturer inventing their own format for sending um, like solar kits usage data, and so we sort of made also something open source that also got adopted. And yeah, that's basically it. Basically, we got into it because we're trying to solve a problem, and we thought that open source was like the perfect solution to that problem.
Interesting. So few years down the line, I believe you must have encountered some challenges, right? And of course, you must have some achievement. You say that, okay, I think this is my biggest achievement so far, right? Can you talk on that, particularly the challenges aspect?
Sure. So challenges we did have, especially when we started. One of them was actually trying to get the shift of mindset. Like we had a lot of the manufacturers that were coming to us that were used to having the service of the commercial offerings, because they were those commercial offerings of like, we will make the PAYGO system for you for your device, don't have to do anything, like a lot of hand holding. But those were commercial offerings that were really expensive. They were like $10,000, $20,000, and so they did come with like a high level of service. Here, like I think we underestimated maybe like the amount of support that might be required by some of those manufacturers. We're used to like that kind of offering, and we're coming to something open source where it's a bit more of a self-serve, and you have to do a little bit more of the work of adopting the technology yourself. You don't have someone that helps you with the implementation. And we realized that, well, basically it was a sort of 50-50 situation. Like half of the people that started using the OpenPAYGO token were doing it by themselves, no problem, no, like maybe raising a little support on GitHub if there was like something that was unclear in the documentation, but really like basically managing to do everything on their own. But the challenge was with the other half, where maybe they weren't used to like using open source software, or maybe they weren't as tech savvy as the other in that part of the system, and they required basically consulting and hand holding. So we ended up at that point basically offering uh, consulting packages that were really like tailored to people trying to adopt this open source solution, to give them like the support that they needed. That was one part. The other thing that we did is also we went back and like improved the documentation time and time over to make it like as simple as possible, provided examples with Arduino, with pictures, with everything, so that really even people that have little experience with that kind of technology could really easily like adopt it. And we really try to like dub it out as much as possible to make it as broadly as accessible as possible. But that was something that was really a challenge at the beginning.
And so, speaking of challenges now, I mean, for the broader open source industry, what do you think are the limitations, right? And also within the limitations, are there opportunities for potential? I mean, what are the potentials, for open source? I mean, in this part of the world, I mean, it's open source conversation is still a bit low, right? But then, is that also part of the limitation? And aside that, what are some of the opportunities in the sector?
Sure. I think the main limitation actually for the markets we operate in is kind of the volume, where it's difficult to get enough people involved, like not only adopting the project, but involved in the project to keep it like fully running on its own. Like we do have to do like as the people who started this project, we need to be doing quite a bit of like guiding and development, and there is not that much development coming from other people, which I think is mostly due to the size of our market. Like if we're in a larger market, it would be easier to have more people contributing. In our market, we do see contribution, but we don't see like a level of contribution that is probably high enough to keep like the product evolving and growing very dynamically. In terms of potential, I think in general there is a lot of potential in everything that is related to part of the industries where there is a need for coordination and for compatibility. So like what we did on OpenPAYGO token, which was a big achievement. In the end, we got like dozens and dozens of manufacturers opting it. The technology is now used into hundreds of thousands of devices that are in the field. So that's a big impact that has been reproduced to a slightly lesser extent, but as well a very big impact in the OpenPAYGO metrics for like standardizing the communication. And now we start having it as well, putting with OpenPAYGO Pass and everything. We got like a lot of the software provider involved, and we got a lot of the hardware provider involved. And I think there is still a lot of opportunities that will emerge in the future in that side of the things of like ensuring coordination in the industry, whether it's like we need now a new standard for like swapping batteries in vehicles, or for the connectivity between different electrical appliances, like that kind of things where there's need of coordination. I think there's a lot of opportunity for open source. But there might be more difficulties in terms of open source being developed for things that are currently more on the commercial side of things. So I think we might see things like high quality solar kits or BMS being open source, but I doubt they will be produced in very high volume. And the same way, although it would be interesting, I doubt we will see like fully open source pay-as-you-go software, because there's not enough volume and contributors, as I was saying earlier, I think, to make it work and to make it evolve dynamically.
Yeah. So before you go fully into the commercial aspect, so I was going to ask you, are there commercial use cases? I mean, are there use cases for commercial operating companies, for open source? Because when people hear the word, when companies hear the word open source, they're like, free? So how do I make money? Right? So
Yeah.
Is there a use case for that?
Yeah, for sure. So as a commercial company, I mean, there is obviously a lot of use of using the open source software. So I think like literally every company, not only in our industry, but in general, is using open source software, whether it's like Linux server, or whether it is whatever application that they're using, like based on open source technology. So on that side of thing, on like the using open source technology for the business, it's something that for sure there is a lot of benefits, and we saw it as well. Like all of the manufacturers that have adopted the open source technology put forward by EnAccess, they've been very happy, and it's led to increased benefits, increased profits. And so here, I think there's absolutely no discussion that it's beneficial. For the other side of things, for trying to make a business model, as you said, like it's free, like how do you make money? So trying to make a business model around developing open source software, it's something that I think is a little bit more challenging, but it's possible. As I said, like we did have the consulting services that we launched on the side of the OpenPAYGO suite, and it's been somewhat successful. We had quite a few clients coming to us, well, quite a few, dozens and dozens, coming to us and asking for help in using the open source software. Like they know it's free, it is free, it is fully open source, but maybe I need assistance in the adoption. Maybe I need tweaks, maybe I need special new features developed just for my product based on that open source technology. And that's where we're able to actually generate revenue. And I think that it's definitely a business model that is workable even in our industry. The only challenge, I think, for that kind of business model compared to having the same business model in other industries, again, like a little bit the size of the industry. But when you see that like on software sides, you often see like software providers that provide fully open source software and then only generate revenue with like hosting services, support services. I think it is something that is possible in our industry, but that can be a little bit challenging because of the small volume of the industry and the price sensitivity as well, where if it's available for free, people might be less inclined, that companies with less price sensitivity to pay for the additional services.
Okay, I'm glad I sorted. Okay, so before I the final question. I'd like our viewers to know that this is the Open Source Leaders Dialogue, where we bring experts, entrepreneurs, and academia to discuss challenges and opportunities in the open source in the energy access industry. And today, our special guest is Benjamin David, who is the CEO of Solaris Offgrid. So, to my final question to you, Benjamin, what do you see as the future trends of open source in energy access? Let's say the next 5 years.
That's a really good question. So I think the main thing that will continue is that the project that currently exists will continue growing, and we're seeing the OpenPAYGO metrics reaching like more and more adoption, especially because those projects are quite slow. Like whenever there are hardware technologies that become open source, due to the life cycle of like product development that take 1, 2, 3 years, the technologies that is already available right now is starting to be adopted, and like the adoption will take a few years to go. So I think for the next 5 years, what we'll see is mostly a lot of growth in what already exists and improvements in what already exists. I think we'll start seeing as well fully open source solutions for other things, like on the hardware side, EnAccess like supported. I saw like projects for like a charge controller, BMS. So I think that kind of project will start getting traction. And some of them might get picked up by contract manufacturers that start making like higher volume of them. Although I'm not sure, to some extent we'll see that already like becoming a big trend in the next 5 years. I think it will still be something that's more of a minority thing. What I think might happen a little bit more is on the software side. I think we'll see more and more software tools for like open source software tools in energy access that can pick up a lot more quickly than what we've seen with the hardware solution that do take like a few years to pick up. So yeah, to summarize, basically, I think on the hardware side of things, what currently exists will just like grow, and some of it is barely used right now and will start being used at a much wider scale as new products are reaching the market. And I think on the software side, we might see something that's like a little bit more dynamic, with like new software popping out of nowhere and starting being used a lot more quickly.
Benjamin David, it's been a pleasure having you speak today on the Open Source Leaders Dialogue platform. We hope to see more of you, and I wish you continued success.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure for me as well. Have a great day.
And you too.
Thank you.